Welcome to the First Baptist on Fifth podcast. I'm Olivia Blake, Ministry and Communications Assistant and host of the new podcast series, Ministry is Calling. Throughout this series, I will be inviting folks from our church to share stories of how they answered this call as we celebrate and reflect on the various ways people engage in ministry work. Today, I'm joined by Reverend Dr. Amy McClure, beloved member and associate pastor of children's, senior adults, and pastoral care. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
For any viewers that may not know you well, which I'm sure there's not as many as with some of our other guests, would you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I started working here in March of 2015. So I guess I've started, year 12 officially? Working on year 12 maybe. Before that, I've served in other churches and other capacities, mostly with older adult ministry. Way back in the day, I was a youth minister, and I feel like youth ministers don't get enough credit. Kudos to all the youth ministers out there. I learned a lot about ministry there. Certainly served overseas before, but even before that, I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina, something I'm very proud of. In fact, I'm wearing blue jeans today, and that really is a nod to me growing up in the mountains of North Carolina. And we come from a bunch of farmers and just mountain people, and I am so proud of that and love it. So often, people that don't know me well, if you ever meet me, I'm likely wearing a version of blue jeans, and that's sort of a nod to always remember where you came from.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. So talk to me a little bit about, obviously, you're a recent graduate, correct?
Ooh, yes. Praise Jesus.
Yes.
Done with school.
Very exciting. So for anyone that may not know, what's this most recent accolade?
So the most recent is after 10 years of having been graduated from my master's level, working here, I, for some reason, thought it'd be a great idea to go back to school while working here full time. And so I just finished my Doctor of Ministry degree from Campbell Divinity School and took 3 years to do that, really focused on the work here. And I just graduated in May, and it feels so nice to be done, but also like anytime you pursue a degree, you have more questions than answers.
Absolutely.
And so I find myself thinking, at least I know how to research something. I'm not sure I have found many answers, but it's been a good journey. So I'm glad to be done.
I love it. And also, I don't know, living the questions, I feel like there's something there that you slowly can keep teasing it out in the work you do here. So that is wonderful. So obviously, a lot of people view ministry work as more of like a calling or a vocation, rather than simply a career or a job you clock in and clock out of. How does that idea or sentiment resonate with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I was a little bitty kid, at the ripe old age of like 4 or 5, I remember being part of a program called Mission Friends. Okay. And the teacher, I grew up Southern Baptist, and I actually really enjoyed the church I grew up in. It's certainly changed. Southern Baptist has changed a lot. But my home church was really great at educating and teaching little kids about what it means to serve God in whatever capacity. And I remember as a 4 or 5-year-old sitting in Mission Friends, the teachers teaching us, they're putting people's picture up on a map, to show where they serve. And I remember thinking, I think I want to do that, but not necessarily be a missionary, the old term missionary. It's I wanted to serve God. And as a 4 or 5-year-old, you don't have language for that.
Yeah.
But I knew I felt comfortable in a local church, my local church. I loved watching my leaders lead. And I thought, there's nothing else I want to do. Now, a lot of little kids growing up, they're like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher. I want to, be the trash truck driver, all kinds of dreams. I thought maybe a veterinarian because I loved animals. But this theme of I am supposed to serve the church, it would never shake for me since I was a little kid.
Interesting.
So you fast forward, and to get back to your question, how does this resonate? Yeah. It never has not resonated with me.
Fair.
And so in seminary, several years later, I had a professor say, it's like Theology 101, Christian Ministry 101. If all of you go to bed at night and you think, gosh, serving the local church is difficult, I probably could just go be a banker and be fine. I could go be a teacher and be fine. And I would be happy doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The professor said, if ever you go to sleep and think I could go do something else and be happy, then go do that.
Interesting.
But if you are called to serve the church, you will never be happy doing anything else. No matter how hard it is, no matter the highs and the lows, you will always have this drive to serve the local church. And I thought, I have felt that since I was 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
I can't shake it. And I was bivocational for many seasons of my church ministry life. I did work in banks, and I, was serving our community. I worked in a grocery store, and but I always knew I was going to come back to the local church, not in a capacity of being a church member, but in the capacity of I'm to serve the people. I didn't know what job title that would be. And so it resonates in the sense a call is something you never shake. And that call looks different for everybody. Mine was to the local church. For some people, their call is to serve in the school district or to serve in a bank or to serve in a doctor's office. And that is their calling. And you just know it. You feel it. It's like your soul gets in sync with your brain and you're just living it. And sometimes it is hard. And you think, I cannot do this another day. And you take a deep breath and think, of course I can, because I could not imagine myself doing anything else. Yeah. So if people are wrestling with a call, just kind of fill in the blank. If I wake up tomorrow and I'm doing this instead, would I be happy? If the answer is yes, then go do that. But if the answer is no, I just really feel called to this, then stick with it and just press through. And that call will always be resonating in your soul. Yeah. And you'll feel a sense of peace about that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I also like how, you touched on, obviously, the ministry being a calling, of course, resonates with you, but also recognizing you can be called to other areas and it's not strictly a calling for ministry work. I think is wonderful that everyone has their role to play, and that's a great thing to highlight. Yeah. So you talked about it a little bit with this story of around 4 to 5 and kind of looking at this map and going, I want to be serving the church. Yeah. But when did it become, I guess, more concrete that you realized this call for ministry work, more beyond just serving, being like, I would know I want to be in a pastor's role rather than chaplaincy or another form of ministry work? Yeah. There were lots of moments leading up to this, but the moment I realized this might look different for me was going into my senior year at UNC Chapel Hill. Go Tar Heels. Some people are going to love that. But I remember going into my senior year, I was part of the Baptist Student Union, which was at the time through the Baptist State Convention of North Carolina, which was part of the bigger Southern Baptist Convention. So it was sort of this big connection. We were one of the largest Baptist student unions in the state, and our campus minister was asked to retire. The reason he was asked to retire is because he was being pushed out for being too progressive. And because of his age, they framed it as retirement. He did not want to leave. He was doing a great job. Everyone looked up to him. I learned a lot. In that same year, going into my senior year, the way the structure of that Baptist Student Union worked is you had a president. You are familiar with this. Kudos to you for being the president of the Baptist Student Union at Wake Forest. Yes. Go Deeks. Go Deeks. But I remember my peers, it's sort of you're elected. It's kind of strange. It's like a mini church situation. And there were a few people interested in it, but it was like unanimous. No, Amy's going to do this. And I didn't really want to do it, but I sort of felt pulled to do it, not in a peer pressure way, but like, I mean, I'd be willing to if they want me to do it. Yeah. And I don't say that to be humble. I'm saying like, I was terrified to do that. Yeah. Like, no. Seriously, someone else please do that. And so I put my name out there. Everyone voted that way. And I said, okay, let's do this. A month later, the campus minister is retiring, and I'm left with an organization, and there's no campus minister. And we're one of the largest in the state. And everybody's looking at me saying, Amy, what are we going to do? Thankfully, all my peers were very wise, very able. And together we started navigating this new season. We had some interim campus ministers step in, which I was so grateful for them. They were amazing people.
And they helped us navigate that. But in that moment of leadership,
Yeah.
of people looking, saying, hey, what do you think we should do?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you asking me? Like, you guys are way smarter than me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm just a willing participant here or something's happening. But I realized people were looking to me in a way I had not seen myself.
Mm.
And so I leaned into that. We had a great year. All of my classmates were just wonderful people who served really well, often much better than I did, really gave of themselves. And I learned from them about what this might look like on a local church level.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this is church. This is it right here.
Yeah.
We're on a college campus, but this is how church should be. We're supporting each other. We're leaning into a call as college students. We're making it happen.
Yeah.
And I thought, this right here, this is what this is going to look like long term. And so I never looked back. I mean, I started pursuing local church ministry in the capacity of one of the ministers. And that's kind of how I found myself. So I don't know that there was a clear marker, but there was a clear experience.
Absolutely.
That lasted a whole year in college. So.
Well, I think that's also a good test of many times you can have that gut feeling, but really seeing it into action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And almost like a trial run.
It's like a trial
in that
run.
undergrad experience. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So obviously you have the Master's of Divinity, and you've had it for quite some time as you've been a pastor here. But I want to focus kind of our conversation on your doctorate, since that's, fresh off the press. So I'm curious, it sounds like with your calling, obviously the Master's of Divinity was the correct path, and you've never looked back from local church ministry.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, why returning back to school for that doctorate? And how do you think it'll continue, and how has it already kind of shaped your role in congregational ministry?
Yeah. Yes. So remember back to my story about as a little kid, I'm looking at adults, learning from them. I didn't realize then that experience was shaping how I was going to do ministry here at First on Fifth, which is this intergenerational connection. So back in wait a minute, I want to get my years right here to do service and justice to the church I served. I think it was 2011 at First Baptist Church in Clayton, North Carolina. Okay. The GA leader, Girls in Action leader,
I love GAs.
They're dually aligned, Southern Baptist, CBF. The leader of the GAs came to me and said, I want my GAs to be in relationship with more of our senior adults and older adults, active retirees. How can we make that happen?
Yeah.
I was part-time. I said, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
And together we dreamed up this thing called Prayer Partners, where we matched a child with an older adult in the church. This beautiful ministry sort of blossomed because of her leadership with the GA program, so much that I brought that program then when I came to serve here, and we launched it, and it was very successful. Well, after the last decade here and First on Fifth, people said, I'd like to have a prayer partner. Like, how can I get in on that? And so we started realizing this is greater than just children and older adults.
Yeah.
What would it look like for youth, for young adults, for adults? Like, everyone needs connection. We are made for connection.
Yeah.
Our lives were never meant to be lived in isolation or alone. God created us for community. So how do we do that well on a church level? So I've always been really passionate about intergenerational ministry. And so I started researching different things, like what churches are doing, what's the new, statistics showing out there about churches, why is there a decline? And across the board, it's usually because people felt a lack of connection with people outside of their generation. They can go with their buddies to their house and have a supper club. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it means you're not accountable to something greater.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of churches that thought, well, if we could just get a church full of the same age people, we'll be successful. Again, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We're all doing the best we can. But I thought, what would it look like to expand prayer partners, but maybe we call them something different? So when you start doing a lot of research, you might as well get a degree for it if you're going to spend the time doing it. So I applied and got into this doctoral program with a focus of intergenerational ministry. So I focused on millennials and baby boomers. And that was an interesting connection point. within a couple hours, so I spent a total of 6 hours over 4 sessions.
Okay.
So each session, hour and a half.
Yep.
By the second session, I have some of my baby boomers and millennials embracing each other, crying, sharing very vulnerable things that I did not ask them to share, but they felt safe to share it. All of a sudden, we see them, I look out into the congregation, they're finding each other, introducing, this is my child, this is my husband, my wife. They want to be in connection. And that was just over 6 hours.
Yeah.
This idea that we can actually be in relationship for longer than 1 minute on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
If you think about it, as the pastors, we tend to, go through and say hey to everyone. If I said hey to you every Sunday for a whole year, it's 52 Sundays.
Yeah.
Hey, Olivia, how's it going?
Yeah.
Life going okay? Good to see you. And I'm on to the next person.
Yeah.
That's just a few seconds. 52 Sundays, a few seconds. We're basically, less than an hour total?
Yeah.
Maybe like 30 minutes total, really. And that's the extent of our connection. Like, that's crazy. We should have more connection than that. So a lot of my doctoral work was focused on, is this important and does it make an impact? And the research showed sort of. So I'm okay with sort of, and we're going to keep leaning into it, even if it's on a small scale.
Absolutely.
Just a couple people at a time, making a difference to make sure everyone feels connected, seen, valued, loved. We're working on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's always at the, forefront of our mission here. So
yes,
finding ways, and like you said, even if it's just a small shift or a small growth and connection, that's worth it. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see, what programming lies ahead in the future on that.
Yeah. Thanks.
So looking back at your journey so far in ministry, and even, recognizing that calling from a young age, how do you think you've best lived into that calling, and how do you plan to continue to do so, whether it be in your role here or more internally?
My call, like I said, is I've always felt called to the local church. Mm-hmm. This has shifted in the last few years, how I present in the local church. Mm-hmm. In 2020, I officially came out to our church, and then obviously then on a more public level, because people actually listen to these podcasts and watch our services. And it was a very scary step for me, but I knew that if I am asking other people to live fully into who God has called them to be, how could I not? And so I met my now current wife, and I realized I can't fully love her unless I fully love myself and be able to fully give that to the church. To say, this is who I love, and I want all of you to love who you are called to love. So my calling, how I'm living into that, has really shifted since the pandemic, since 2020, in a sense where I now see people coming to visit us, whether it's someone who identifies in our queer community or is already in a relationship and married to someone of the same sex, but they come here and they're still unsure, even though we march in the Pride Parade. We say it very clearly on our website. We've had it hung from the banners before, and they still don't believe us. But for some people, they come in and they see me simply hold my wife's hand or put my arm around her during worship, just things normal couples do.
Absolutely.
And they'll come with tears in their eyes saying, we didn't believe that this church really was that. We thought you were just a lot of frou-frou language. But there you are in a pastor's robe and stole with your wife on the front row, which we've now moved to the second row. I mean, it happens. And we're not trying to prove anything. We're not trying to be showy. That's just who we are as a couple. And for whatever reason, it's made an impact in people's lives. And there are a lot of people out there with church trauma that do not believe that a faith community could actually love them well. And we are not perfect here at First on Fifth. We have our issues, as any church does. But one thing that we do not compromise on is we will celebrate you in the fullness of who God has created you to be. Not just say, you're welcome here, or all are welcome. Churches say that, but you're not really welcomed.
Absolutely.
We mean that here. And so my call really has been to normalize that Normalize being in a same-sex relationship. Normalize loving who you feel called to love. Again, calling, right? If you feel pulled and called to this, go do that.
Yeah.
Because we have no idea the impact down the road.
Absolutely.
So, yes, my calling is to serve this community.
Mm-hmm.
I think a layer has been added
Yeah.
in a way that I never would have in a million years said as a little kid, oh, I feel called to serve the local church.
Yeah.
Would not have been, let this also be part of my witness.
Yeah.
To call. So our call can grow.
Absolutely.
And shift and pivot. And I think we have to be open to that too.
Absolutely. I think with time, and I think part of that is with language to articulate, you find the nuance of where's your niche in the world, and how can you best serve that calling?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I also chuckle that was the experience you shared was very much my own, of sitting up in the balcony the first few Sundays and seeing many of the same-sex couples within our congregation just an arm around their spouse, and it very normal but no hesitation to do so. And I was like, yep, they are living into what they're saying they're about, and slowly that then just
excuse me
helped confirm for me that this was the space to be. So I chuckle that it's a shock for when you're just living your life, but the effect it can have on others that are witnessing, you just being you. So
it's like the first time I saw a female preaching.
Yeah.
I always believed women could be pastors. Yeah. Ironically, I grew up in a Southern Baptist church.
Yeah.
Never had a problem with a female pastor. Yep. But I'd never seen one.
Yeah.
Like live in person.
Absolutely.
And I remember
or not just for one Sunday because the head pastor's out type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but the first woman I ever saw preach was a lady named Reverend Mary Wiles. She's amazing, and people in North Carolina listening to this podcast will know Mary Wiles.
I love it.
But I heard her preach, and I loved her as a person. And then she stood up, and I thought, what? She's preaching.
Yeah.
Whoa, there's a woman preaching? Yeah. And so you do, like, until you see it, it's like you can't believe it about yourself.
Absolutely.
And I remember that changing me. I always felt like I could preach, and I would be preaching someday.
Yeah.
But until I saw it, it didn't really become a reality.
Absolutely.
It was fascinating. So yes, representation matters, females, but also just being who you are called to be.
Absolutely.
Could change a little kid's life, and help them see something different.
For sure.
So
wonderful.
Yeah.
So one last question for you.
I'm so ready.
Okay. So if you could tell your younger self one thing from when you were starting out on this journey, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so much I would tell my younger self.
See, our first guest was struggling to pick just the one as well.
There's so many things, but I think I would tell my younger self, don't be afraid to live your truth, whatever that looks like, through school, through living, through church life. Just be true to who you feel called to be, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And I think all of our kids everywhere need to hear that. You're going to be okay. People have your back.
Yeah.
I had such a supportive family and church family, and they still are. And I know that is rare for some people. But I would tell my younger self, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just be true to who you are, and don't be scared to tell your parents the things.
Yeah.
Don't be scared to tell your friends, hey, guess what?
Surprise.
Because they're going to support you.
Yeah.
And it's going to be okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing a piece of your story today with all of us. And thank you for listening. It was lovely to have Reverend Dr. Amy McClure here today, and we look forward to seeing you all again on our next episode.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.